영어쉐도잉. Why is salmon so divisive in Tasmania? Tasmania's Museum of Old New Art attracts around 400,000 visitors a year, but they won't find locally grown salmon on the menu at any of Monia's restaurants. Monia stopped serving salmon in 2017 amid concerns about the impact fish farming was having on Tasmanian waterways. Why would we take a risk with a product that's ever expanding? The risk to our environment is so great. It's a changing sentiment spurred when salmon first landed on restaurant tables. It's a real specialty dish. 40 years on, salmon has gone from a delicacy to a supermarket staple. Alongside that growth, there's been a mounting campaign against the industry. Fish waste, cruelty to seals, and influxes algae, and a lack of regulation are some of the concerns surrounding the industry. A turning point in the debate was the release of Richie Flanagan's book Toxic in 2021. He raised not only environmental but health concerns about salmon. A 200-gram portion of salmon will contain as much fat as Big Mac and medium-serve of fries. Salmon company Tassos told the stock exchange the book has been unsettling, but didn't detail its impacts on sales. But it broke the fear, because there were such fear about speaking out. The Tasmanian government recently pleads for a return of a social license for industry. This is an industry that desperately wants the Tasmanian people's approval. Some West Coast residents say it's not an issue, so I say they have significant social license, and I've said the way companies operate might be something that the mining companies might want to take note of. The bulk of the market for Tasmanian salmon isn't the island state, but the rest of Australia. Do you like salmon? Yeah, we just did. Very, very good. Yeah, occasionally I just like the taste. 65% of farm salmon is sold domestically, which is why activist groups are hitting the road. We're recruiting chefs around Australia to say publicly they will not serve Tasmanian Atlantic salmon. David Painter said despite the controversy, salmon sushi will remain a popular choice for customers. It's just that people are more aware, more likely to talk about it. It's prompted him to change supplier to smaller salmon producer. It can't be that sustainability if done on a local scale. Tasmanian aquaculture is on track to become a $2 billion industry by 2030. The state government is encouraging but not compelling companies to move fish pond further out to sea, and is keen to protect more than 2,000 aquaculture jobs. Don't just listen to headline of the noisy activists we hear. Find out the facts. Transparency concerns like to escalate now. All three Australian salmon companies are foreign-owned and no longer reporting to the stock exchange. Salmon company representative and industry body Salmon Tasmania declined to be interviewed. Fiona Blackwood, ABC News. What more? Tasmania's Museum of Old New Art attracts around 400,000 visitors a year, but they won't find locally grown salmon on the menu at any of Monia's restaurants. Monias stopped serving salmon in 2017 amid concerns about the impact fish farming was having on Tasmanian waterways. Why would we take a risk with a product that's ever expanding? The risk to our environment so great. It's a changing sentiment for when salmon first landed on restaurant tables. It's a real specialty dish. 40 years on, salmon has gone from a delicacy to supermarket staple. Alongside that growth, there's been a marketing campaign against the industry. Fish waste, cruelty to seal, and influxes of algae and a lack of regulation are some of the concerns around the industry. A turning point in debate was the release of Richard Flanagan's book Toxic in 2021. He raised not only environmental but health concerns about salmon. A 200-gram portion of salmon will contain as much fat as a Big Mac and medium serve of fries. Salmon company Tassel told the stock exchange the book has been unsettling, but didn't detail its impact on sales. But it broke the fear, because there are such fear about speaking out. The Tasmanian government recently pleaded for return of a social license for industry. This is an industry that desperately wants the Tasmanian people's approval. Some West Coast residents say it's not an issue, so I'd say they have significant social license, and I'd say the way companies operate might be something that mining companies might want to take note of. The bulk of the market for Tasmanian salmon isn't the island state, but the rest of Australia. 65% of farm salmon is sold domestically, which is why activist groups are hitting the road. We're recruiting chefs around Australia to say publicly they will not buy, they will not serve Tasmanian Atlantic salmon. David Painter said despite the controversy, salmon sushi roll remain a popular choice for customers. It's just that people are more aware, more likely to talk about it. It's prompted him to change supplier to a smaller salmon producer. It can't be done sustainability, it's done on local scale. Tasmanian agriculture is on track to become a $2 billion industry by 2030. The state government is encouraging but not compelling companies to move fish pan further out to sea, and is keen to protect more than 2,000 aquaculture jobs. Don't just listen to the headlines of noisy activists that we hear. Find out the fact. Transparency concern likely to escalate now all three Australian salmon companies are foreign-owned and no longer reported to stock exchange. Salmon company representatives and industry body Salmon Tasmania declined to interview. Fiona Blackwood, ABC News. Lost, an original speed. Tasmania's Museum of Old New Art attracts around 400,000 visitors a year, but they won't find locally grown salmon on the menu at any of Monia's restaurants. Monia's stopped serving salmon in 2017 amid concerns about the effects fish farming was having on Tasmanian waterway. Why would we take a risk with a product that's ever expanding the risk to our environment so great? It's a changing sentiment from when salmon first landed on restaurant table. It's a really special dish. 40 years on, salmon has gone from delicacy to supermarket staple. Alongside that growth, there's been a mounting campaign against the industry. Fish waste, cruelty to seal, an influx of algae, and the lack of regulation are some of the concerns around the industry. A turning point to debate was the release of Richard Flanagan's Toxin in 2021. He raised not only environmental but health concerns about salmon. A 200-gram portion of salmon will contain as much fat as a Big Mac and medium serve of fries. Salmon company tells us told the stock exchange the book has been unsettling, but didn't detail its impacts on sales. But it broke the fear because there was such fear about speaking out. The Tasmanian government recently pleaded for a return of social license for the industry. This is an industry that desperately wants the Tasmanian people approval. Some West Coasters say it's not an issue, so I just say have significant social license, and I just say the way companies operate might be something that the mining company want to take note of. The bulk of the market for Tasmanian salmon isn't the island state, but the rest of Australia. 65% of farm salmon is sold domestically, which is why activist groups are hitting the road. We're recruiting chefs around Australia to say publicly they will not buy, they will not serve Tasmanian Atlantic salmon. David Painter said despite the controversy, salmon sushi roll remain a popular choice for customers. It's just people are more aware, more likely to talk about it. It's brought to him to change supplier to smaller salmon producer. It can be done sustainably. It's done on local scale. Tasmanian agriculture is on track to become a $2 billion industry by 2030. The state government is increasing but not compelling companies to move fish pens further out to sea, and is keen to protect more than 2,000 aquaculture jobs. Don't just listen to headlines of the noisy activists we hear. Find out the fact. Transparency concerns likely to escalate now. All three Australian salmon companies are foreign owned and no longer reported to stock exchange. Salmon company representatives and industry body Salmon Tasmania declined to interview. Felina Blackhead, ABC News.